That emptiness you feel isn't confusion. It's your soul rejecting a life that was never meant to be yours. The ancient Stoics had a word for this, living according to external impressions rather than your own nature. And here's what no one tells you. The reason you feel lost isn't because you lack direction. It's because you're walking someone else's path so perfectly that you've forgotten your own exists. I'm about to show you the 4 unmistakable signs that you're living someone else's life, and more importantly, how to find your way back to your own. This isn't about making drastic changes or burning everything down. It's about recognizing the subtle ways you've been programmed to want things you don't actually want, and how to break free from that programming starting today. Sign 1. Your goals feel like obligations. The first sign you're living someone else's life is when your biggest goals feel like burdens rather than adventures. You're climbing the ladder, but deep down, you're not even sure it's leaning against the right wall. You tell people you want the promotion, but when you imagine getting it, you feel exhausted, not excited. You say you want the bigger house, but the thought of the mortgage makes you anxious, not ambitious. You claim you want to get married, but when you think about the wedding, you feel pressure, not joy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." But you're doing the opposite. You're measuring your success by your neighbor's scorecard, your parents' expectations, or society's checklist. Here's the brutal truth. If your goals don't energize you, they're not your goals. They're assignments someone else gave you, and you've been such a good student that you forgot you never enrolled in their class. Real goals, your goals, should feel like coming alive, not checking boxes. Sign 2. You're constantly seeking permission. The second sign is subtler but more dangerous. You find yourself constantly seeking validation for choices that should be entirely your own. You ask friends if you should cut your hair. You check with family before changing careers. You need approval for your opinions before you express them. But here's what's really happening. You've outsourced your decision-making because you don't trust your own judgment. And you don't trust your own judgment because it's been buried under years of other people's voices telling you what you should want, who you should be, and how you should live. Epictetus taught that the essence of freedom is living according to your own will, not the will of others. But you've been so busy being a good daughter, son, employee, or friend that you've forgotten what your own will even sounds like. Every time you seek permission for something that's fundamentally your choice, you're not being considerate, you're being cowardly. You're avoiding the responsibility of owning your life and its consequences. The person living their own life doesn't need a committee to approve their haircut. Sign 3. Success feels empty when you achieve it. The third sign is perhaps the most heartbreaking. You work towards something for months or years, you finally achieve it, and instead of satisfaction, you feel nothing. Or worse, you feel like you're still missing something crucial. You got the degree your parents wanted, but graduation felt hollow. You bought the car you've been saving for, but the excitement lasted about a week. You reached the income level you thought would make you happy, but you're still looking for the next milestone. This isn't ingratitude or depression, it's your authentic self trying to tell you that you're succeeding at the wrong game. Seneca warned against this when he said, "It is likely that some troubles will befall us, but it is not a present fact." How often has the unexpected happened? How often has the expected never come to pass? You're chasing outcomes that other people told you would make you happy, but happiness can't be found in someone else's definition of success. When you achieve goals that aren't aligned with your true nature, the victory feels empty because it is empty. You've won a prize in a contest you never wanted to enter. Sign 4. You feel guilty when you actually want something. The fourth and final sign is the most insidious. You feel guilty or selfish when you acknowledge what you actually want. You want to travel, but you feel guilty about wasting money. You want to change careers, but you feel selfish for throwing away your education. You want to end a relationship, but you feel cruel for hurting someone. This guilt is a prison built from other people's expectations. You've been taught that your authentic desires are somehow wrong, selfish, or unrealistic. But here's what the Stoics understood that modern society has forgotten. Living authentically isn't selfish, it's necessary. Marcus Aurelius didn't feel guilty for being emperor instead of a philosopher, even though he preferred philosophy. He understood that authenticity isn't about doing whatever you feel like. It's about aligning your actions with your true nature while still fulfilling your responsibilities. The person living their own life doesn't feel guilty for wanting what they want. They might not choose to pursue certain desires for practical reasons, but they don't feel shame for having them. Your desires aren't wrong, they're information. They're your inner compass trying to guide you toward your authentic path. So, how do you find your way back to your own life? Start by asking yourself one simple question every day. If no one would know about this decision and no one would judge me for it, what would I choose? Notice how different your answers become when you remove the audience. Notice how your preferences change when you're not performing for anyone. That voice underneath all the noise, that's you. That's who you were before the world told you who to be. The Stoics called this living according to your own nature, and they believed it was the only path to genuine contentment. Not happiness, contentment. The deep, unshakable satisfaction that comes from knowing you're living your own life, not a copy of someone else's. Here's what most people never realize. Feeling lost isn't a character flaw or a sign that something's wrong with you. It's actually your wisdom trying to surface. It's your authentic self rebelling against a life that doesn't fit. The ancient Stoic principle that changed everything for me was this: you are not responsible for living up to other people's expectations, but you are responsible for living up to your own nature. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, at dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. Your work as a human being isn't to be who others want you to be, it's to discover who you actually are and have the courage to live as that person. The moment you stop trying to live someone else's life and start living your own, that lost feeling disappears. Not because you suddenly have all the answers, but because you're finally asking the right questions. You're not lost. You never were. You're just ready to come home to yourself. If this hit you like a lightning bolt, you're not alone. I get messages every day from people who say they finally understand why success felt so empty, why they needed so much validation, why their goals felt like burdens instead of dreams. But here's what I need to know. Which of these 4 signs resonated most deeply with you? Was it the goals that felt like obligations, the constant need for permission, the empty victories, or the guilt around your authentic desires? Leave a comment and tell me not just which one, but what you're going to do differently starting this moment. Because recognizing you're living someone else's life is just the beginning. The real work is learning to trust your own voice again after years of drowning it out. And if you're ready for that deeper work, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Your authentic life is waiting for you. It always has been. The only question is, are you finally ready to live it?